You're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. So this week, I'm delighted to welcome Alison Lincoln. Alison has been passionate about horses since her childhood, moving from a very traditional pony club and competition background into a lifelong exploration of equine performance, coaching and welfare. And after completing a pioneering degree in equine sports coaching, where the British Horse Society came in and lectured and so on, she went to lecture herself at an equestrian college and several colleges across the UK, authored her first book, Equine Sports Coaching, which brings coaching theory from wider sport into the equestrian world. So we could do a bit of catch up. Her second book, Be Your Own Equine Sports Coach, combined over a decade of learning in biomechanics, physiology, sports psychology, and also her independent training. So alongside her academic and practical experience, Alison has trained in equine facilitated learning and studied equine behaviour and welfare, including the 5 domains model and ridden horse performance checklist. I love this next bit. She's known on LinkedIn as the Disruptive Equestrian, which we'll chat about. She's an absolute avid learner, continually exploring performance, coaching and well-being to improve the outcomes for both horses and riders. So big warm welcome, Alison. Lovely to see you.
It's Tracy. Really great to have a chat with you.
Now, when we think about horses, you know, I often ask people about their horsey background, and horses have seemed to have been with you right from the start, from a very young age. So why horses?
Do you know, it's a really good question. And I don't know if I have a really good answer. All I can say is my mum had a horse. She taught at the local riding school. When the local riding school closed down, we got one of the ponies. And it's just been horse. I love horses because, you know, from a very young age, we were hacking out. So we were out and about in the country. I have vivid recollections of my little grey pony, Grey Owl, hacking about. We'd be probably hanging back a bit from my mum, and I'd be singing to him, and it was just one of those things. And I think from a very early age, you know, you come home from school, you put your saddle on your bike, and you'd bike down to see the horses. So there was something quite freeing about it, and literally, there's never been any question in my mind that I had to have something to do with horses. There was never going to be a time when there weren't horses in my life in some form or other, and I still learn. I think that's the beauty of it. I just, you know, I'm 51 years old. I got my first pony at sort of 7, and I'm still learning, and I still am amazed about the stuff that I'm learning and where it's taking me, and the books. I mean, my bookshelf is full of books, and that's a really interesting one, and I didn't quite finish them all. So I don't think there was any choice. I don't think there was ever a decision where I went, I'm going to do horses. It was just horses, and all my decisions. When I went to college, I had to be somewhere where I could do my horses. I didn't go to university because I wanted to earn money to be able to have horses and do my horsey stuff. So horses have just been my whole life, and I don't think I will ever be without having horses.
Yeah.
So listen, yeah, I can't imagine. My husband often says to me, people who don't have horses do at weekends. I said, I have no idea, and I don't actually need to find out. It's fine, you know.
What do they do with all their time?
I know.
And all their money? What do they do?
I know.
I love the fact that you said it's learning, and I think that's what's so great about equestrianism. Whether you own horses but don't ride them, or you ride them, or you're a serious competitor, there's always something to learn, and I love that about horses. I think that's one side of it that really attracts me as well. And I know you've been investigating and studying ecological dynamics and that form of coaching. And I really, really love that kind of way of coaching versus the traditional. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how it does contrast with what we think of as a very traditional coach of maybe 20, 30 years ago?
Absolutely. It's something that I've picked up from Marianne Davis and Warren Lampard, who are doing some brilliant research on this. Ecological dynamics is about structuring the environment for the partnership to learn together. And it kind of fits very nicely with Brand's sort of idea of this third language. So we don't speak horse and horse don't speak human. So we have to develop this third way of communicating so that we understand what's being asked of each other. And ecological dynamics sort of says, well, what we need to do is set up the environment to allow that learning to take place. So instead of the sort of very traditional instruction that probably, if we've been involved with horse for any length of time, it's right, put your heels here, put your hands here. If you put your weight here, the horse will do this, turn your body this way. And you end up contorting yourself all over the place. And actually, often you'll get off the horse more tired and exhausted than when you got on. And I kind of feel now we need to move beyond that and go, the horse is a sentient being. They need to be engaged within that learning. And how do we set that up? So, and I'm not an expert, but I can see how we can apply this to horse work. It's about looking at what are the constraints put on. So, for instance, if we're competing, when we go show jumping, the constraints when we're show jumping is you have a certain size arena, you have to jump the fences in a certain order, going a certain way, and usually there's a time limit. So, so those are your constraints. But within those constraints, you have opportunities to take action. So as a horse and rider partnership, you know where your strengths are, you know that your tight turns are not great for you, or left turns are better than right turns. So what we need to do is we structure the learning environment to allow that learning to take place so that when you get to the competition, for example, or whatever you're doing, it's really easy. And I think this links into things like social license, because the things that you see on telly at the elite level, things that don't look good on the telly, is when you see a rider pulling the bit or kicking or using the stick. So if we can develop that third language, what we do then is actually we improve the communication, and then everything becomes easier. You only got to watch people like Michael Young, and they look like they're effortless. They're doing nothing. The horse is just there, and they turn and they balance and they go, and you go, I didn't see them do anything. So when we set up learning environments, it's things like starting with poles on the ground, and you dot them all over the arena, and you do it in walk. So the rider gets used to how they turn their body and they look. The horse picks up how the rider is turning their body. And the horse, horses are really intelligent, and they work out, they're turning the body because they're looking for the poles. And as you do this and you get better at this communication, the horse looks for the pole. They looks for the next pole, and then they take their cue from you. And so what you're building then is a communication where the horse goes in, understands what's being asked, and then looks to the rider for the cue, and the rider just has to look at the pole, and their weight automatically turns. You don't need to put your hip here or your leg there. Your weight automatically turns to follow the pole, and the horse follows it. And then you can add in the speed. So you start then trotting and cantering, and then you might add in the more, a bit of height. And so what you're doing is, it's not me as a coach going, right, you need to do this, and I want you to aim for this fence post, and when you're there, I want you to hold the outside rein, and what we're doing is we're setting up the environment for the horse and rider to develop that communication and build on a performance, so that when it comes to the pressure moments, the communication's already there. The horse goes, I understand this, I'm looking for the poles. Let me just check with my rider. I'm just going to check the cue with my rider, which pole I'm going for. Okay, I get it. And that's when you see jump off rounds where the rider, as they're over the top of the fence and looking for the next fence, and you can see the horse going, twigged it, and turns before they even land.
Yeah.
So that sort of process. And the beauty about that is, I always say as a coach, I know I've done a good job when you no longer need me, because I think part of our role as a coach is to set you as a rider up to trust your own instincts, to be able to develop that partnership with your horse, to be able to work out what you might need help in and do it. So it's not like you're reliant on me as a coach. You don't need me there to walk the course, to tell you how to ride the course, to tell you how to warm up. You know all this because you've done it before, you've practiced it, you've prepared for it, and you've done it in small stages.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like we, as riders and maybe as coaches as well, we could be a lot more creative, and it's still structured in a way, but it's and you talk about choice points and things like that. So how could, I know you said, we could scatter poles around and things like that. What kind of cues are we looking for as a rider? I know it'd be different for different partnerships, but if someone was going to say, right, I'm going to try this, I'm going to just scatter poles randomly, I'm going to just do my usual well, this is the next one, either looking or turning my body or something. What are we looking back for in terms of feedback from the horse?
So that's a great question. It might help referencing it to a different sport. So in tennis, there's a lot of conversation in coaching about drills. So with kids, what you tend to do is you say, right, you've got to serve like this. So I want you to put 10 balls on that spot, or I want you to do this with your backhand. And a lot of the discussion now is that good technique doesn't prepare you for what happens in a match. And it's the same with horses. So actually what we want to do is play. All we need to do is take it less seriously and play. So in terms of looking out for cues, this is what you were hoping to achieve, which was to get round to that. It didn't quite work. Why didn't it quite work? Where was the horse? Was I not clear about my intention? Was I not clear with my body? Was I thinking about something else? So it's really experimenting with what I often say to people, well, try opening your rein. Did that give you what you wanted? Try it. So we talked about being disruptive. We need to think differently about, well, I know that I'm supposed to do this. Well, okay, but does that work for you and your horse in this situation? Find out what works.
Yeah.
So play, experiment, and then get the feedback from the horse. Is the horse picking up on what you want?
Yeah.
You know, if you turn and look, is the horse following? Okay, if they're not following, what are they looking at? Are they more interested in going and seeing the horse over there?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's about just working out, okay, if my horse's mind is over there and not on what do we need to do to try and get them to want to work with us? Have we not done enough warm up? Do we just need to let them go and see what's over there because they're a bit worried about it and then start again?
Yeah.
As human beings, we're really good at getting very focused and very, it's that come home from work, I've got 20 minutes to ride. I'm going to do this, this, and this because I'm doing that on the dressage test at the weekend. And actually, part of the fascinating thing about horses for me is you have to learn as much about yourself as you do about the horse. So you recognize that and you go, okay, I know that's going to be a bit. My intention is to do this, but I'm going to be open to the fact that maybe my horse just isn't there today, or maybe it would be better to work on something else. So it's just being mindful. If you're going out in the arena and suddenly something's changed in the arena, or you've hacked down the road and something's changed and the horse has gone, oh my Lord, it's going to eat me.
Yeah.
That changes what you're going to do for your 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we need to change our mindset a little bit about, no, I've decided I'm going to do this. And actually so when you're looking for cues, actually, it's about collaboration. It's about working out what feedback you're getting and just being open to it and then experimenting with it.
Yeah. And make it fun. I mean, it sounds like great fun.
Play.
Yeah. And I suppose when you're trying this, because for some people it's going to be very different and very new, that it would be good to have some kind of reflection on what happened and maybe different conditions, even weather conditions or whatever it is, so that you can start to learn from it and you're not thinking, well, I'm just kind of, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. This worked, but I don't really know why it worked, and this other thing didn't work, and it should have done because it used to do. It might be good to have some kind of journal. Do you ever tell people to do that or advise people?
Definitely find some way of recording. So you mentioned choice points. I learned this through equine facilitated learning, and I love this idea of choice points. So you took an action, you did something, it may or may not have got. Why? Why did you choose that? So reflect back on, and if it's easy to write it down or make yourself a voice note or just take some, 5 minutes over a cup of tea to think about it. Why did you choose that action? Why did you choose to do that? Okay, did that give you what you wanted? It may or may not. What choices might you have had? Because that might have given you the outcome, but there might have been better choices, or different choices. So, and that's back to the ecological dynamics. They talk about affordances, opportunities for action. So you took a certain action, reflect back on, well, I wonder why I did it like that. Was it just, as you said, that's what I was taught to do? That was my natural instinct. What else could I have done? Could I have taken a breath? Could I have stopped? Could I have said, and I come from a very traditional background. It's very much sort of be in control, and to then give over that control a little bit to experiment and to listen for feedback and to not have the answers can be very unsettling. And you can want to fall back into the things that work and no, just do as I tell you, horse. Just please, just because sometimes when you give the horse a voice, they have a lot to say, and it isn't always what you want to hear.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a chestnut mare, so I can fully imagine that.
I
Yeah.
have a youngster that I bought as Ford to go eventing. Irish sports horse, pedigree should have been fine. He doesn't want to work. He just doesn't enjoy it. It's just not for him. I mean, he has metabolic issues, so he's always hungry. But at some point, we have to have that thought process. Is this what I want to do? Is the horse happy to go along with that? Does
Yeah.
that work for my horse? And we have to have that conversation with ourselves about, it's really interesting. If you ask people, well, what does your horse like? People can give you a whole list of things that my horse doesn't like. What does
Mm,
your horse like to do? What does your horse like? Because it's no different than with children. If we can find out what that horse likes to do, we can find some way of working with the horse and the partnership. So you want to do dressage. Yours really is not a big fan of dressage, or you want to school in the arena, but loves poles or loves jumps. So maybe we can put some pole work in or some jumps in, that we do a bit of flat work, and then as a reward, or as a, let's go and have a bit of fun. Let's pop over the poles and let's do a
yeah.
little jump. So it's just, like you said, thinking creatively about how we make this collaboration, this partnership work
Yeah, because
for
then it
both of
will
us.
work so much better, won't it? And for both, not just the horse, for the rider as well. And you really feel like you're not dragging your horse out of the stable to go and ride, because you know that your horse doesn't really like your style of riding in terms of, like you say, flat work, dressage versus jumping or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that choice point, is that more of a mental choice or a physical choice, or can it be mental, physical, or emotional?
That is a great question. That is a really great question. It could be all of them.
Mm,
So, for instance, when you first start maybe some relationship work, so I always say you can train out the no's, you can train in the yeses, but to get to, okay, I'll give it a go, that takes relationship.
mm,
Excuse me. And we all know with relationship, you need a bit of give and take. So, for instance, really easy one, you're leading your horse out to the grass or out to the field, and the horse really wants to bite grass. Now, you've got choices there, haven't you? You can say, no, we're going to the field. You can say, okay, you can have a bit of grass and then we're going to the field. So you go, okay, I'm going to physically let you have a bite of grass. And then you get to the stage where, no, I want to go into the field now. And your horse goes, no, no, I like this bit of grass. I don't want to. No, no. And then you've got a choice there, haven't you, to react emotionally.
mm,
No, I mean what I say. Do as I want you to
yeah,
do it now because I've said you do it now. And the horse still goes, no, I don't want to. So the emotional choice then is to get cross, to get sort of frustrated, to get back into control mode. Or you could go, and that never ends well, because in terms of relationship, you start getting frustrated. That's the negative energy, and then you start pulling, or you give them a little tap with a whip, or a little tap
yeah.
with, or you just, that's how. And there's nothing bad and wrong with that. But the other choice could be to, okay, have another bite, and you keep your sense of humor, and you keep your right. You're being a bit annoying now. Can we go little nudge nudge? And what I found, because I've got a gypsy cob mare, very easy to get frustrated with the eating the grass bit, but I found actually you can just be like a bit annoying. Right, come on now. Come on now. I'm going to prod you. Just a little prod. And then actually what you find is the horse goes, I know, one more, and then they'll come. So you're absolutely right. You've got physical and emotional and mental choices to make. Am I going to make a big thing about this?
Mm.
Is it the end of the world if the horse doesn't stop eating the grass the first time I ask them? Now, it might be if you've got a car coming, they're on the verge and they've got a car coming towards you and you've got to get out of it. That might be that they don't have a choice and you just have to be
Mm.
directive and forceful. But it might be, okay, have another little bit. Or sometimes I find with horses, well, how about we go over to that little bit? And you direct them to that little bit. And then they're a bit more, well, you're making progress, but they're a bit more cued into you. And then when you say, right, we need to get out into the field, oh, okay, all right, that's fine. So the horse gets a sense of having some say in the matter, having
Mhm.
some choice. And that's back to the 5 domains. It's about mental state. Oh, excuse me, I'm talking too much. um, when horses, horses to live a good life, we like them to have positive experiences. And actually, a horse being able to seek good experiences and resolve negative experiences is part of their decision making and part of their
Yeah.
choice points. So we're giving them an opportunity. We're saying, this is what I really want. Okay, I respect the fact that you want another mouthful of grass. I quite like, and then we have some choice about whether to get grumpy about it, and the horse has some choice whether to think about whether they're going to come with us, and that will determine the relationship. You had Debbie Busby on, and she talks lovely about putting credit in the bank. So by giving your horse the opportunity to make some choices, puts credit in the bank. When you take those choices away, you're taking, credit out of that bank account. So
Yeah.
we know most horses wouldn't choose to work.
Yeah.
They wouldn't choose to do a lot of the stuff we ask them to do. So the more credit we can put in the bank, the more choices we can give them when it's okay for them to make choices, the more credit we've got in the bank. And then there's a bit more there to make withdrawals when we say, actually, we are doing a dressage test today. I'm really sorry, but just for these 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I'd like to take the lead. So for me, that's about partnership and collaboration, and just trying to think a bit differently about our interaction with our horses and giving
Yeah.
them some say where you can.
Yeah, I love that. And having that say, maybe that affordance, maybe that's the
Yeah.
buzzword, isn't it, in the ecological dynamics? But that can only improve the relationship. But how do you have any ideas about how you could do that practically whilst you're riding? Is that well, we're going to do this. If you want to do it, we're going to have a go at this, and if you don't, then I'll have another choice point myself. And I think, well, okay, I know you hate it, or you're a bit stiff and it's difficult for you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or is there a different way of approaching that?
Um, that's another great question. So I think about, like, with hacking, you might have decided you're going to the yard and you're turning right, but your horse doesn't want to go right. That's your choice point. You've made a decision to go right today, but your horse doesn't really want to. So you offer him to go left. And the horse goes, yeah, I'm happy to go left. So go with it. As long as it doesn't matter, as long as you don't know the road's closed or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
If you're in the arena and you thought, right, I'm going to work on transitions today because that's a good strength exercise and I know I need to improve my transitions, and my coach has said that's what I'm going to do. But your horse is really quite energetic, feeling quite lively. Really, all your horse wants to do is trot around the arena, or some days they want to move. They don't want to stop, they want to move. So change your plan.
Yeah.
Say today I'm going to work on really loads of energy, I'm going to work on lengthening. And the beauty about that is thinking with your ecological dynamic hat on. You've got an arena, so you've got a long side and you've got a short side. And you can have the intention to lengthen more energy, more power up the long side. And then just by the horse anticipating the short side, you sitting up thinking about shortening, then the horse automatically shortens. You're developing your communication, you're developing that third language. So you're seeing what the horse has to offer and being flexible within that. Now, it might be that you do 5 or 10 minutes of that, and then the horse goes, actually, I really want to stop. You've got, there's my opportunity for a transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So finding out what the horse is offering you today, and can you work with that given whatever constraints, these are your opportunities for actions.
Mm.
If your horse is offering energy, let's use that and find a different solution. If your horse is not feeling like they want to go forward and they want to keep stopping, there's your opportunity to do transitions. The horse wants to stop. Today they're about stopping. So let's practice stopping. Let's practice stopping and see how light we can get it. So will the horse stop because they're thinking about stopping and they're offering stop it if I just took a small breath in, or if I just sat stiller? Because you're developing that communication. And then maybe next time you're pelting down the hill, coming to an upright fence, and you take a breath and you sit upright and you go a bit stiller, the horse goes, oh, I recognise that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've been involved in the process.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than, like, yes, this kid's been sat down, you are going to learn algebra today. Yeah, but I really want to run around because I'm feeling really, So it's not like we're changing a lot, but we are just thinking slightly differently about what is the horse offering me today and how can I work with that.
I really like that. I really like that because, like you say, this money in the bank kind of idea, that on the days where you need to do something like your dressage test or your show jumping round or whatever, because you've got that lovely relationship, your horse is going to say, oh, okay, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, yeah, I'll go with you just for that, and then I'm going to stop.
I mean, let's face it, it doesn't always work like that, but if we can it's really tricky because what I really like about so there's a couple of things I really like about where my sort of learning has taken me. The 5 domains, I think, is where we have to start. It always used to be friends, freedom, forage. Any behaviorists will say if you've got what unwanted behavior, sometimes it's called bad behavior, but it's generally just horse being a horse, but it's unwanted. We have to look at the conditions that they're being kept in, and the opportunities to improve that. And the 5 domains is I like the 5 domains because it builds on the friends, freedom, and forage, but it also goes from being good care is not the same as good welfare. So good care can take you to neutral welfare. So the horse is not cold or hungry or thirsty. They have friends, all those sorts of things. But in times they can have very little choice. So what takes them into good welfare is where they have opportunities to resolve negative experiences for themselves and opportunities to seek positive experiences. And sometimes it's not very easy because we're all on livery yards. So it's really hard to do that in a livery yard. But there are little things we can do. So there's been some lovely research that horses prefer to drink out of one colour bucket than another. So if we want to give our horses choice, 2 different coloured buckets. I mean, your horse may not care, but they've got a choice then. If they've got waterer, give them a bucket. There is a choice. They can choose where they get their water from. There's another nice study that if you give horses hay or haylage or a mixture of both, they prefer to have the choice of both. So again, can we give them access to different forages? And if you think about what you were just saying about mental state, that horse is going to feels that they have some agency over what they can do.
Yeah.
And that then I was liken it to being like when you have it suffering from road rage. You've had a really busy day, you've run late, you've dropped your tea down yourself, you've got, you're late for an appointment, you've had a really stressful conversation at work, and someone pulls out in front of you and you go,
yeah.
Oh, if you'd just been on a spa day and you'd had a lovely relaxing day by the pool, you've had a lovely lunch and you've rushed to get anywhere and you're driving and someone cuts you up, you just go, oh, they've obviously had a bad day. And I think it's the same with horses. If we can think about that, where they've had the opportunity to make some choices, to resolve any conflicts. So, 2 horses haven't got on, they can get themselves away to a different space. They're starting from a much lower level. They're starting from that spa day type feeling. And then if you ask them to do stuff, they're going to be a bit like, yeah. Whereas if they're already, well, I can't, I'm waiting for my human and they haven't come and I'm really hungry and that's a negative experience and I can't eat till I get there, or I don't like that horse and I can't get them away from it, those sorts of things. Or, it's really hot and I've got nowhere to get myself out under the shade. So that we don't have lots of money to be able to change lots of things, but there are little things we can change to give horses some opportunity to resolve negative experiences themselves, to decide what they would like to do, and then when we do want to take some credit out, we've got a lot of credit there.
Yeah, great. That's really nice, and I like that analogy with the choice and so on. So what are the 5 domains, in case anyone, I'm sure everyone's heard of them and probably knows them by rote, but just a quick recap so that people know.
Okay, I'm going to get my crib sheet out because I don't want to get this wrong and that would be awful, wouldn't it? Luckily, I have my crib sheet right in front of me. So if anybody's really interested, the course that Christina Wilkins does with the University of New England on the 5 domains, that ought to be compulsory really for everybody. It's not a very expensive course and it's brilliant because it takes you all the way through all the 5 domains, but a lot of other stuff besides. So you've got nutrition, physical environment, health indicators, interactions with the environment, interactions with other animals, and interactions with humans. Okay. And so the interactions with the environment, the other animals, and with humans all make up domain 4. The others, nutrition, domain 1, physical environment, domain 2, health indicators, domain 3. And all of those feed into this overarching 5th domain, which is mental state. So what we're doing is we're making some interpretations about what horses need for themselves as a species, and that's going to lead to a positive mental state. So we need to assess, and this is what's interesting, is it's done on a horse by horse basis. So for different horses, just like with humans, different things will be important to them or not important to them. I really like the 5 domains because it really does talk about interactions with humans. And on the Christina Wilkinson's course, they give you like lists of animal based indicators and situation related indicators. So things like with interactions with humans, you know, includes tack, it includes the sort of things you're asking. So it's kind of built on the Friends, Feed and Forage. If you do nothing else, Friends, Feed and Forage is a really good place to start. But if you start looking at where we can give horses choices within that, then we're starting to move into the 5 domains and starting to really think about species specific needs rather than what necessarily they can just do for us as a as a tool, as a means of sport or recreation or whatever.
Yeah.
They become partners.
Yeah. Yeah. Equals, isn't it? Very much equals. You would hate as a human being not to have choices. As an adult human being, you would hate it if everyone just clamped down on your choices and said, well, this is what you're going to eat, and this is what you're going to drink, and this is where you're going to live.
And this is when you're going to eat it and when you're going to drink.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is lots of good care going out there. People, you know, fly rugs and fly masks and rain sheets and bring horses in when it's wet. But good care is not the same as good welfare. And horses having the choice to say, actually, I quite like standing out in the rain. I'm all right. Or actually, have I got somewhere I can take myself off? Because often you'll find some horses want the shelter, some horses don't, for example. Obviously, if we want to ride, we might put a rug on them. That's, you know, that's okay. That's fine. That's fair. But where we tend to control all of the stuff, that takes into a neutral welfare state.
Yeah.
But to get to good welfare, we need to find opportunities, affordances, whatever you want to call it, opportunities for them to take action and make decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Super. Which kind of leads me on to thinking about your little name on LinkedIn, which I love. I love Disruptive Equestrian, and we were talking about that. You were talking about it, you know, in a positive sense. It's not that you disrupt everything. You're not an anarchist, but
definitely not.
What then needs shaking up and disrupting a bit in the horse world, do you think?
I think we need to just disrupt our own thinking. There's lots going on in the horse world, and you get, you know, quite polar opposites, don't you, on social media, where somebody will say something and they'll go, yeah, but we've always done it, and it's, if you use like double bridles, we've always used double bridles and they can be good in good hands, and you know, we don't need to demonize things. And then you'll get the other part say, no, we shouldn't do that. And then you get, well, we should be educating people, they clearly don't understand. And actually, maybe as I come up from a very traditional background, maybe we just need to rethink stuff. I'm reading a great book at the moment called The Nature of Horses by Stephen Budiansky. And he says things like with the bit, we've always used the bit. I've never questioned using the bit, although probably having now seen some of the research on oral lesions and reading in his book, he says they know when horses were domesticated by the damage to the teeth, because that's when they first started using bits. Now, clearly, we know that they won't have used very good metal, that, you know, they won't have been positioned properly, though. But that we just need to then stop and think, oh, that's interesting. Okay, maybe the bit is the right thing for us. Maybe we're not ready to go bitless. Some of our rules don't let us go bitless. But maybe we need to rethink about how we use the bit then. How are we, you know, there's a lot of, you know, quite tight head carriages and stuff. So disruption for me is just about thinking differently. Let's be curious, let's be interested about the stuff we do and why we do it, and let's just stop and go, okay, I've always done it like that, I wonder why. I mean, I choose not to ride with a whip now, because I can think back of any time when I've used it inappropriately, or in fact most of the time I had it because it was an accessory. You know, you did dressage, you had a long dressage whip.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it. And then when I thought about it, I thought, I don't really use it. I'm not sure I want to use it. It's really hard to use it well in the moment, you know, with once you learn about negative reinforcement and that sort of thing. So I decided to do without it. At the moment, I've not found anything that I thought I would want to use it for. That may change. I'm just experimenting. And I think that's all, you know, when I say about being disruptive, it's just, let's just be curious. Let's go, we've always done it like that. What, you know, it's the whole, we get on from the left side. Why do we get on from the left side? Well, in the cavalry days, you had a sword. Okay, so do we need to get on from the left side all the time? Or do you know what I mean? It's those sorts of things going, but why?
Yeah.
But why do we do it like that? And I think that's all I mean from being a disruptive equestrian is let's just think about what we're saying and what we're doing and why we're doing it, and just ask some questions.
I think there's another book idea coming now.
No, I keep saying books are really tough to write, so you have to be really like that second book was all the research I had for 10, 12 years, and I just wanted it out there and it needed to be out there. So, but you're right, there are probably far cleverer people than me who are saying and doing this stuff with podcasts and webinars and stuff, which is very accessible. Yeah.
So where can people find you on social media, on the internet? Where can they get your books? I'll put it all in the description as well.
Well, my books are on Amazon. Any good bookstore has them. I think the first book is actually nearly sold out now. It's about, I think it was 2008. So I think it's nearly sold out now. The second book came out in 2022. So that's on Amazon or through the publishers, Prowood. My website is alisonlincoln.co.uk. You'll find the books, all my blogs on there. And I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me on LinkedIn. And do you know what? I like a discussion and a conversation. Let's just talk about horses. I mean, what's not to like about that? Have a little chat
Yeah.
about horses.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just before I thank you, I know you want to ask me some questions.
Do, because I saw you posted about the Tucker biokinetic technique that you've just trained in, and I know nothing about this, so I would be fascinating to hear what it is, what it involves, and yeah.
So, well, it's a lot bigger than the qualification that I've done. I've done the kind of entry level qualification, which is skeletal alignment. So, Tucker biokinetic technique is all about realigning certain parts of the body. So, for me, I've done the bone bit. And once you realign that, you realign not just the bone or not just the organ that you're working on, but you realign them physically, emotionally, mentally, and so on. And you bring them into physical, optimal way of moving, which is probably what most riders are interested in, although we're getting there so that we want them to be emotionally very, very fit and robust as well. So it starts off when you do a checkup or a series of checkups, and these will look like most body worker kind of checkups, your chiropractors and your massage therapists and so on, just checking for motility of different joints around the body. What's slightly different about Tucker biokinetic technique is that you then start to think, well, what's the primary? So they've got a stiff shoulder, but is that the problem? Or is it the lumbar? Or is it the withers? Or is it the sternum? But you can kind of map it out and you can get a good guess, let's say, of the area. Even if you can't say, okay, it's all pointing towards the sternum, you could say, right, it's more front end. The back end stuff is secondary. So that's quite nice about it. And I think as I go on, because I keep studying it, I think that ability to hone in on a particular place in the body will get stronger, and I think it'll be more reinforced in the lectures and so on. So once you've done all the checkups, the actual technique itself is an energy technique. So it's using the horse's own energy. So let's say, I don't know, the scapula, the shoulder blade was out somehow. And I'm not talking, it's like hanging off.
No.
Like that. It could be like a millimeter or a micrometer. It's just not quite optimal. Then you place your hand on one of what they call master points, which I think align with acupressure or acupoint points. But I'm not sure because I don't know too much about that. I don't know much about acupuncture. So it may or may not be the same kind of places. So that's like where the energy would be in the horse, or one of the centers of energy. And it's using that center to move the bone, in my case, that's misaligned. And it kind of gently moves it. You can't necessarily feel it. But then when you go to do the checkup, so you check the shoulder or whatever it is you're working on, and it's loosened up. And it's just, I'm at that point where I'm like, I don't get why this works, but this is fabulous.
But I love those sorts of things. And that fits in because we talked about this before we started. I've just recently done the Sue Dyson behavior and movement course with Horses Inside Out, looking at the ridden horse performance checklist. And that I can see being so brilliant because you've got these 24 indicators of discomfort in the horses. And if they score 8 or more, there's something not quite right there. And so then I could see, and sometimes vets will come in and they go, well, I can't find anything. But something like you've just described would be brilliant, because it's not that the horse is hopping lame or they've done an awful injury, but there's something misaligned, something not right that's causing them discomfort. Now, it might be you find something, but actually, if you've done your ridden horse performance checklist, your horse has scored more than 8, you might call someone like you and say, look, there's something not quite right. We're not sure. Can you come and, because you're right, horses compensate, don't they? So the primary problem might be in the front end, but actually you're seeing the problems as a hind limb toe drag because they're
Yeah.
compensating for that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love what you just said about, I'm not sure why it works, but it actually does, because I love that sort of stuff as well. I'm a real science person, but I love it when you get something that I don't know why it works, but it does. I can see it. I can feel it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always amazed. I'm at that. I'm sure it will get to a point where I've done loads and loads of practice, and I'll be like, "Well, this just works." You don't.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows? But at the moment, like I did my horse's scapula, which is probably why I'm thinking about it, and humerus, so that the top half of the leg and so on. And I did that yesterday, and to be honest, when I did the checkup, she had quite good movement forwards and backwards and round and round. It was okay, and she's 20 years old, so I'm not expecting her to be,
Yeah.
the most mobile. But I did this little checkup and I did the technique, and then she was swinging it round, and I was like, wow. And I really know there's a massive difference there.
Yeah.
But also, it's quite curious in the course itself. Sometimes you just practice on yourself.
Yeah.
So, I was just raising my arm up and down. And I thought, well, I can do that all day, but there's nothing wrong with my arms or shoulders or anything like that. But then I thought, do you know what? It feels a little bit tight underneath the top part of my arm. Just a little bit. I mean, nothing bad. I'd never ever noticed it. And I did the technique and then it disappeared. And I think that's my
Oh,
convincer,
amazing.
because
Yeah.
the horse, I can think, oh, she's just repositioned herself. She's just standing in a different way. And yeah.
Yeah.
Or we've already done a checkup and we've been circling her shoulders anyway. So maybe that loosened it up.
Yeah.
And so I think of all these things, but then when it happens on me and I'm like, I know that feels different. And I know that's not because I was just exercising my arm, that I start to think, oh, that's curious.
And I think we all know from ourselves that I know, like, if I don't do stretches, I have a stretching routine. And if I know I haven't done that, I know that not only does it affect me physically, it affects me energy wise, but it also affects me mentally and emotionally. So you can't unpick all of these things, can you? And anything, I kind of think anything that helps the horse to feel better, however it helps them to feel better, whatever makes them feel better, it's got to be a good thing. And it's not invasive. It's probably quite nice for the horse. They quite enjoy it. You'll get a sense of whether they like it or not, whether they want you to continue or not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see more of your posts about how you keep going
Yeah.
on with it. Yeah.
Yeah. The course that I'm just starting is the everything else besides the bones. It's everything else. So it's organs and ligaments and tendons and nerves and blood vessels. And then there is a master practitioner, and I'm not quite sure. I mean, I think that goes into, because this course does emotional stuff, but I think it goes even deeper into the emotional side, but I'm not sure. But yeah. So if anyone does need something for their horse, you look
I'm
on
so gutted that you're too far away from me. Next time you're down in Hampshire, I'd love you to come and have a look at my chap. That would be so fascinating. Because I think also when you're doing it on your own horse, I'd like to have a new fresh pair of eyes in, because they can often see things, or they see things that you have got into a habit of seeing and not thought about, or anything. You always get a nice new perspective. So, well, that sounds fascinating. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, it's great. It really is. And if anyone is struggling at the moment, I would go onto the Tucker Biokinetic site and look for, well, the master practitioner is the top of the shop, and it might be that, that's the level that you need. But if you think, I just want to make my horse a bit more comfortable, then the skeletal alignment or the functional alignment would be adequate. But yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. I'm really excited about learning it.
Yeah. And that's horses, isn't it? You just learn all the time. It's either about the horse, or it's about you, or it's about, something else. The two of you,
absolutely.
Cool.
It's been
Brilliant to
fascinating.
chat to you, Tracy. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you for my questions as well.
Oh no, that was really interesting. I've learned something new. That's my favourite thing. I get to talk about horses and learn something.
Thanks so much.
All right. Take care, Tracy.